If some of you can already hear us, thank you for putting up with the rambling. Uh, okay, I think we are live now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our latest version of the Masai Success Stories webinar. Today, we are joined by Abhishek Ray and Abhishek Saklani, both of whom are actually graduates from our cohort 4, which is Ninjas, and now working as developers with Urban Piper, a product based startup based out of Bangalore. But before we get started, for those of you who are here for the first time, who do not have a background on Masai School, just to give you a little context, Masai School is a 21st century career focused skill building school. Currently, we are focused on software development tracks across full stack, Android, and overall software engineering. We are on a mission to find untapped and underutilized talent and train them for the most in demand jobs in the world. Our idea is to basically make sure that the institute and the students are equal stakeholders in the process, and an institute or a school actually invests in the students instead of it just being a one-way street. So that is where we come from, and welcome to this live stream. Uh, Quickly going into a little bit of a background, like I said, Abhishek Ray and Abhishek Saklani from cohort 4 Ninjas, and since both of them have so many overlaps here with the same first name, we are going to be referring to them as Ray and Saklani. So if your families are here, please excuse that. And and they've both also chosen to join the same organization for some reason, and they're very excited about it, of course. So yeah, so to keep the confusion aside, for our viewers, the intention of this session is to basically give you a little bit of a inside. While you are still on the outside, to give you an insight into what a student experience is like at Masai School, what their journey is, why some of these guys have actually come in to Masai, and so that you can hear from them directly. In fact, we'll be taking questions towards the end of the session. So I will ask Abhishek, both Ray and Saklani to sort of give a brief background about themselves to begin with, and we'll go into the conversation. Towards the end, you can put in your questions in the comments or reach out to somebody from our team, and we'll be more than happy to take up your questions and see if we can give you some useful answers. So, starting with you, Ray, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you are currently, and sort of the journey that you've had over the last few months?
Sure. Hi everyone. So currently I'm working as a backend engineer in Urban Piper, and prior to this, I was basically doing a full stack web development course in Masai, where I learned both front end and back end. And prior to that, I actually was working in the IT service industry. So basically, I worked in TCS for nearly 1.6 years in Pune, and then for Infosys for nearly 3 to 4 months. And prior to this, I basically graduated from Odisha itself in 2017.
Okay. What about you, Saklani?
Yeah, so hello everyone. So I am also joining Urban Piper as a backend engineer. So I also did a 6 month course at Masai School, which was a wonderful journey. And before that, I did my BTech in computer science engineering from IP University Delhi, and I am from Delhi itself. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic to get a little background. Quick question. When you were actually, in your degree stage, when you were, let's say, towards the final year of your formal education, what were you looking forward to in life? What were your aspirations at that time? Starting again with you, Ray.
So at the like in the final year in college and basically most of my college life, I was kind of like directionless, I would say. As a result, I did not know exactly what kind of role or what kind of job I would want for myself. But I knew that it had to be somewhere where people were excited to come to office in the morning and who took joy in the work or the effort they put in. And that's was the kind of basic idea I had about where I wanted to work. But eventually, like since I was a bit directionless, I could not really pinpoint or guide my way around those scenarios, especially after college. So I ended up working in a IT service sector, so basically in a functional role in TCS. But I knew at that moment that that wasn't it for me, and I wanted something different, more like a startup culture.
Okay. What about you, Saklani?
And for me, like in the last year of college, I got to know that this wouldn't work out. As in, what I came for looking at college, it was nothing like that. I I like chose computer science because I had alignment towards it. I liked the things as how just by sitting at a computers you can build things down. So I like that thing. So that's why I chose computer science, right? But when I got into college and what I had expected from college, it was totally different. Coming to the last year, I thought that this wouldn't work out. So looking for options, I thought that I would prepare myself for a postgrad. During that time, during the preparation phase, I was looking for something which would give me exposure, because and think that like I had was only postgrad up to that stuff. I was directionless, as Ray pointed out, because during college time we don't know what we should pick up, right? If someone says, some senior of you say yours says that pick up Java, you pick up Java. In the next semester, like someone says pick up competitive programming, it is good for placements, you pick that up, and you never have a clear direction or clear path as what to follow it along. Someone says pick up from Geeks for Geeks, and it is a huge resource. You don't know what to look in for Geeks for Geeks, right? So that is what I wanted, that something should give me a proper direction, something should have a proper structure in place, and that is where during my preparation phase I landed up on Masai.
So interesting, Saklani. Continuing on that thought, like you've already given me a sense of sort of what you were looking for and possibly why you came into this kind of a space. But why did you choose to join Masai school?
Yeah. So as I said, the first thing was I was preparing for competitive exams because I want to get into postgrad. So I had learned this step that the things need to be in discipline, because without discipline, and I was opting for an online batch in Masai school. It
Hmm.
was around the time at January. So the discipline had to be the number one thing for me. Because if you say I join a course, I have joined many courses in my colleges also. But what used to happen is you used to follow it for a week or so, and after that you yourself don't know where that course went. How did you like? You don't have any updates on it, right? You follow it for a week or so, and after that you lose track of it. So that was the one thing. Discipline was the topmost priority for me. That if I am able to give in my hard work and put in my hours, so I need to see that result, and it was definitely the first thing for me. The second thing was a course that is structured, because I lacked, as Ray also pointed out, we lacked direction in our colleges. So the structure was the second thing that I was looking for, and the third thing that build the trust, because there are many things out there, many courses going on out there. But the third thing was the transparency in Masai school. You can see every student that has graduated from Masai school. You can see his profiles. You can go on to GitHub. All their courses are open source. As you can see what they are teaching upon. You can go on their websites. You can see how the students are performing. They have like Git commits and all, so you can keep a track of that. How was the course curriculum? What they are currently doing? How many students have placed? So that was a total go for me. And the last statement was I read upon the website is like your success is their success. So that was a huge thing for me. So yeah.
We truly try to live by that statement. So, what about you, Ray? Why did you, and especially after having some work experience, having worked in a, at least the same industry, probably in some adjacent roles, why did you choose a full-time program and why Masai School?
So basically, at the time, I was working in a technology, but that entire technology was very niche. So I knew that if I continued down that path, like 10 or 5 years from now, I would have very limited set of options to choose from. And like at that point of career, like I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to be able to have the option to like explore more, especially in tech. And that so basically that kind of sparked my interest in looking out for something else. And I realized that if I needed to like jump career into a startup, I needed some intensive program. And I, after like similar to what Saklani pointed out, the course curriculum itself was very thorough. And in addition to that, I also I looked up the profiles of people who had gone through the program, checked out their profiles, see that they had actually put the work in, and on top of that, I also looked at people who ran the school, and they all were from the startup world basically. So I knew that they would have the network, they would have the like know-how, and like they would able to help us navigate the way around how to get into these startups, how to talk to these people, what is expected of us from in those environments. So that was basically my motivation in order to join SISE.
Did any of you look at other alternates in the same space?
I did actually. Like there was one I looked at, the School of Accelerated Learning in Hyderabad, but eventually I went with Masai because I felt one thing that this SOAL, which is in Hyderabad, it's basically a 3 month course. But after looking at both the course curriculums, I realized that Masai offered a more thorough education, and that made me decide to go to Masai.
Yeah,
All right.
I also tried for some of the known ones, but the thing is, what attracted me to Masai was the three things that I pointed out: discipline, transparency, and the course structure was superb. So the thing is, if you are able to do the hard work, you are able to put in the hours, the hard work that you need, and at the end of it, you expect the result. And it was clearly like everything was transparent. As in, you can see the journey from the starting of student and when he got placed, right? So are able to relate to that, and that is what I like most about myself.
Okay. Moving into the journey part a little bit here, in terms of your overall time spent at Masai, did you face any challenges?
Lots. So
All right.
So the main challenge I faced was in DS and Algo particularly. So initially, like from the beginning up to the point where we learned about binary search, so up till that particular like period was very like I struggled a lot in that, because like I didn't know how to like in that period my mindset was that every single problem I solve I have to remember the approach, otherwise I wouldn't be able to solve this same problem again. So that was my mindset. But only after like doing learning about binary search, specifically learning about paradigms in order to how to approach certain problems. So once I started learning about those paradigms, I started observing some patterns. But prior to that, like it was very challenging, the DS algo part especially.
Okay. So, how did you overcome the challenge? What were the enablers there?
So, like up to a point, like what I was doing was that I would prepare notes, and then later at some point I would look over those notes and okay, I will see, okay, I don't remember this, but I remember this. Like this was my process. But the problem here was that like if there was a certain period of time in which I hadn't revised those notes, I would tend to forget those things. So eventually, what worked for me was that I would do a lot of active recall. Like in the mornings, I would go up to my terrace, and while walking I would just try to recollect some of the problems I had solved, and just talk out loud the approach to solving that problem. Like I started doing this a lot more when the interviews got closer, because I knew that even if I'm able to solve a problem, I need to be able to demonstrate my thinking to them by speaking it out loud. So once I incorporated this particular approach, this talking out loud active recall into my own learning, it made things much more better.
Hmm. What about you, Saklani? Was
So
it a smooth journey?
no, it it was made smooth by the Masai team. So what happened was the DS and algo part, as Ray pointed out. So I had done some like programming in my college days, but what was the thing was when you I was able to do the simpler thing as in array stack, queues, linked list, right? But when DP came in around in the college, I tried it up, but after a level of point, we were like, what to do next? We did not have any guidance as of such, right? We read out the editorials and all, but we were not able to figure out as how to do it. But over here in Masai, what they helped out is I was able to tackle the harder problems, as in DP, graph, trees. We were able to do that, and that built a lot of confidence in me. And same goes for, because I did not have any experience as such in the web development also. I was quite new to it. So we, like in the college, we learn basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? But not in depth as it was like taught over here. So for the React part also, as in starting from week 13 or so, because it was totally a new library for me. I have never learned such stuff. Like for till JavaScript I could manage, but after that it was totally new for me. Same goes for backend also. So what came in helpful was, like, even I have the slightest of doubt, I can ask it to the mentors. One thing was there, right? You can always try to ask them up and they will clear out your doubts. The second thing that came helpful was in the starting when our batch started, right? So it was an online batch. So what Masai has already prepared it for us was there was a pair buddy system, as in you form a group of two. So I was paired with Charul. So we both were there from the starting. So whenever I did some mistakes or I was not able to pick something up in some lecture, so we used to discuss it as I was not able to get this, and he used to highlight my mistakes, and that is the most important thing, right? If you know what your mistakes are and you can improve over them, and like we used to discuss one other approaches, and we used to learn more. As in some DS problem, I used to follow some different path, and then he would tell me a different approach. And if we both were not able to get to something, we can ask our batchmates. We have a problem solving classes. We can ask our mentors also. So that was totally fine, and that was how I overcame all this stuff.
Okay. So this is a very specific challenge in the sense of what you go through as a techie, and for our audience who's going to be aspiring developers who may not necessarily be exposed to this background, especially as you know, a lot of our students actually come from complete non-coding backgrounds. What kind of challenges have you gone through on the non-tech side, or an overall making it through? Either of you can start.
Okay. So for the non-tech side, as in this comes in handy as in for the interview things, right? So for the interview part also, we did not have, I have not attended many interviews in college. So I was quite new to it. But what the curriculum in Masai is, they have all pre-planned for you. So you don't have to stress out on the things that they have already taken care of it, right? You just need to put in your hard work and all rest is sorted. So we had mock sessions, we had pair programming. That was totally a new experience for me, and I get to learn as I was in a feedback loop, right? So I get to learn from those what I did wrong in this. We had external mentors, so all those stuff I used to learn from.
Okay.
So from the non-tech angle, what I would say is that even though you are learning a particular technology, actually you'll be learning several technologies over the course of the Masai education. But the most important thing that I personally take away, or anyone should take away, is that how to approach stuff in general, like how to learn basically. Like if you are able to know that, I think you will be able to tackle any subject, like how to break down a particular problem. Like these are like not specifically related to tech, and these can be like carried over to multiple domains. Like if you have a problem, how do you simply approach it? This was one part, one non-tech part I found. And in addition to this, also the soft skills part. Like you have to be able to like persuade people about your solution. You have to be able to converse like with people, and I think like the sooner you work at it, like the better off you will be, like when the interviews arrive.
Okay. Interesting. So, moving on in the journey, placements and end of the curriculum. How was your experience there? That's always a little stressful for most people. Did you guys feel stressed out towards the end of it?
A lot.
So, how was your experience, Ray? And how did you sort of go through the entire stressful period, change that, and create success for yourself, achieve your desired goal?
So starting off like the initially when I started off, like I wasn't very like confident about the way I had revised certain things. I felt that there were certain gaps, and it hurt me because like those were the areas I had already learned and done well in. But simply because I hadn't revised, I felt kind of weak in that. So like that was then my revision I wasn't very particularly strong about, but didn't feel strongly about. But then, so that was the point that scared me a bit, and that caused a lot of tension when I sat for interviews. That okay, they might ask me stuff that I already know, but I might not be able to answer because my revision wasn't up to that point. At least that's how I felt. So in order to get around that, I had to talk myself down that okay, whatever you know, just be honest with what you know, and even if you don't know, think from a first principles point of view, because that's one approach that you have already learned. Like we have gotten so many problems that we didn't see before throughout these 6 months, and then we like in general learn how to like approach that problem on the spot, like think on the spot. I just told myself that have faith in that ability of yourself, that even if you get a problem that you might not be able to recollect the approach to, you'll still be probably be able to break it down, and if not the full answer, at least you'll be able to like demonstrate to them that you at least know how to approach these problems. So and one thing that Aman used to say to us, that this isn't IIT JEE exams, and this is more like a CBSE board exam. So it's not a binary win, zero or one. It's like you can show them there's a lot of things you can do. Uh, like even if you don't arrive at the solution, there's a lot of things you can demonstrate to them that shows to them that you are a good candidate. So that was like kind of my approach to dealing with attention.
Okay. What about you, Saklani?
So for the placement thing, like this was the problem in me. Like I did not have the confidence, even though I had gone through 6 months, but because I had not faced many interviews as such, so I did not have the confidence. So again, the pair programming, the support from Ankur, Pratik, all the Masai team came in, and they were like, even because what Trey pointed out is totally right. In the interviews, we don't need to show him that we know all the things. We just need to show him that whatever we know it perfectly, right? So even if we don't know many things, it is all right. But whatever we have learned, and we should be thorough with it. That should be the main aim. So again, Charul and me used to discuss and take each other's interview. Even though he was very good at JavaScript and React, he like came up to me, gave up his time, and we used to discuss things around. We used to discuss DS problems also, and the mentors also. Albert also pointed out some of the mistakes that I did during my evaluations. So he was like, even the slightest of mistakes that Yogesh sir also pointed out, that small things matter a lot, and that I get to see after I joined the company. How small things, they make up a huge thing for the company, as in a culture and all that is totally on the top for a company's sake. So these small things, if you do it wrong, they like turn into a bad habit. So this is where Masai teaches you that you have to do this right way, and even they are strict sometimes, but that is for your own good. You realize later on after you are placed and you look back and introspect, then you see that, oh, why it was with them. So you don't have a far-sighted approach there, but you have to believe in them.
So you probably hate us a little less after the curriculum, after the discipline issues are gone away. So, what, in all of this time, how many interviews did you go through, Saklani? Let's look at it.
So I was like fortunate enough that I could crack my second job. So the Urban Piper was my second interview. First interview went on. I did clear some rounds, but it was the first thing, as in the first job, right? So I was really nervous, but at each time, Ankur, Pratik, all of them, like after clearing each round, they like individually message you up, and like they boost your confidence to another level. They are like, हाँ ये फोड़ दिया ना, अगला round भी हो जाएगा, tension मत लो, ठीक है? So this was like the attitude. So, and one video I still remember, I still watch it. Whenever I used to go for a round, Ankur shared a locker room speech, right? And I like to play basketball, so I know how the team spirit goes, and I used to watch that video every single time before every round. So that boosted my confidence a lot.
I'm really glad to hear that. What about you, Ray?
So for me, the eventual what happened was I sat around for like three companies, but in total, I think I sat for around 8 rounds in total. But there were three companies in total.
Okay. So did you get low at some point of time, like, not getting through to a desired opportunity? What?
Yeah.
How did you come out of that?
So basically, like one of the like I came very close to like getting into one company, but I got rejected at the very last round. So that was a major blow to my like I was pretty confident till then that I would be able to get in since I was in the last round. But when I
Right.
heard the news, I was like devastated. So, but at the time, like if it hadn't been for Pratik and Ankur, I I can't say like I would have been able to crack the next job because a lot of it is simply mental in nature. Like it's not even about the like subject at that particular moment because like you can't like get better suddenly at DSN in 1 day's time or 2 days time. So at that point it becomes a lot mental in nature. So like with Ankur, Pratik, like giving me confidence that I had it what it took to get into these, like I just told myself that okay, like let's just see how it goes and let's take it one interview at a time. So yeah.
So, what advice can you give to some of our viewers, people who may not have the benefit of a support system if they are going through interviews? Since we are on this particular piece, and I also know how painful this process can be. I remember it's been many years, but my own interviews and going through a rejection and all. So, what would you give as an advice to any of our viewers who may not have such a support system?
So I would really encourage that person to seek out a mentor. Like even if that's not possible, like at least try from your end to find some mentor. And people do those services like even if it's not frequent, try to find a mentor because there is simply no replacement for that particular experience. When somebody gives you live feedback, there's just no replacement for that. But if you're not able to get that, what I would say is that like, there's a lot of good tech forums that are there and basically like they kind of give you the like line by line narration of how a particular interview goes and you will be able to catch a drift of how those tech interviews goes. But in terms of culture, like like you should like try to seek out people who can give you that sort of experience, can tell you that what it's like being inside one of those companies, and then you'll be able to get a better sense of view about how to approach those companies.
Yeah, I also had the same views as Ray. Nothing more to add on.
All right. So one very important question here, and I think that needs to be addressed. How do you think Masai has prepared you for the job, not just an interview, but the actual, performance on the job?
So in terms of like the strictly the lines of code we wrote every day and the kind of hours we put in every day, those in like in general like tell you that like once we get into a job, like we already know that okay 9 hours won't be a problem because we used to work 12 hours. So even if it's stretched to 12 hours, like that won't be an issue. It's like that mental block that is there that okay, like I'm getting paid for 9, why should I work for this? That won't be there because you like in Masai, one thing that happens is you start to take ownership of the stuff you do. Once you start doing projects, and especially in collaborative projects, you really have to own the work you do, or it's kind of goes to like kind of falls apart. So that taking that ownership and strictly in terms of like the hours you have to put in, and so in those two aspects, Masai prepared me a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like for me, there is something as in we work like you can look up the course of Masai School, right? You can look up, go onto the site and look up the course, right? What they teach. But what we had was because these were COVID times, these were not normal times, right? And people were losing jobs. So Masai is very good in that they take the feedback and adapt to it very quickly. So we had us like what we did was we had two major projects at the end, which was not included in our previous course earlier, but that was included specifically for the course uh, for the batch that we are going into, right? So we built something on different tech stack that we have never worked before, and that gave us a confidence that whatever we have learned in the past, that is, we have learned how to learn. So that validifies as in we made something out of the tech stack that we did not have worked earlier, and we made out of projects. We did hackathons that built a huge confidence in us. And going to the placement part, the mock interviews and all helped a lot.
Got that. I think, and it's important to point out that we do, try and keep the curriculum always relevant to the industry, and we try and take feedback in closed sessions from our alumni, from our hiring partners, and make sure that at any point of time, anything which is industry relevant is coming out. And yeah, that's a big focus at Masai School. So, all right, we can for the audience, we can open up to some questions from your side. I have one more question, but I wanted to put it out there in case people have questions. They can leave it in the comments, and I'll be taking it up after another 5 minutes. So, one question and one perception which I want you to sort of give your views on. Uh, is you're both computer science graduates, right?
Correct.
So you have foundations, or you have a background in computer science, software development, the entire space. Uh, how do you think something like this works out for a non-CS graduate? Because I think a large part of our audience, the world out there, does not get an opportunity to go for a computer science or IT education, even if they wish to, and a lot of people realize it much later in life. So, in your perspective, and especially having been through a curriculum and a batch which has a mix of all sorts of students, how do you think that can work? Do you think having, so let me make it simpler. Like, do you think having a CS background gave you an edge?
So for me, if it gave me an edge, I would already have been placed at a much bigger firm, right? Earlier during my college time. So that was not the case. But yeah, it gave me some edge, as in I was able to relate faster. But
Mhm.
coming from a non-CS background, he has to put in more hours of effort. That is all what is required, because everything in Masai is taught from basics. So you don't have to worry about if you know the CS stuff and all. But yeah, you need to put in the extra amount of hard work that is required from a normal guy, right? Because if maybe linked list or stack is opening up and you don't know about it, so that will be taught, but you have to revise that again. You have to get familiar with the concept, right? So that needs to be done. And like for many things, as in our batch also had guys from mechanical, guys from sales also, and they were placed before us. So that is never a thing that degree plays an important role, but yeah, you need to put in the hard work more.
Okay. Any other perspective to add, Ray?
So I think it like gave me an edge in the first 2 months because that was stuff I was somewhat familiar with. But once the 2 months were over and we started getting into React and more advanced topics in JavaScript, by that point I think everyone should be on an equal playing field, especially if everyone's like being sincere about the work they have put in during the first 2 months. But for the first 2 months, I think there's a definite edge to people who have like been through these concepts before.
Okay. So, any other piece of advice apart from like working hard? Like Saklani said, you will probably put in a little more effort to begin with. Anything that our non-CS, non-engineering viewers can actually do before they come to Masai School to get a running start?
So there are like basic like coding, like basic exams and basic certifications online. So basic courses like on Code Academy, like they've like started the very basics, and then like they don't even go into the advanced stuff, just cover the basics. And I think one can like approach them on their own because they are specially made for people with zero like computer science background.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there are like tutorials you can watch, but that will lead into tutorial hell, because that is what we did in engineering, right? We followed that stuff up, and after a week we were not able to do, as in we didn't remember what we did. So assignments should be there. So for assignments, one good site that I can recall of is free code camp. You can follow that up. It starts from the basics. So you can start that up, and also HackerRank has some, I think, sessions or something that is totally for beginners. So you can start from that.
Okay. Uh, since we are actually touching on these topics, another question which comes up, and a lot of people ask this in today's day and age when there are a lot of free resources out there. Uh, why should that person come to Masai school? Why not just go through the free resources?
So
Um,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So the thing is, we have a lot of resources, right? And that is the problem where it is actually, right? It is a lot. And we are not able to segregate as what to read and what specifically to read. Like, let's say for web dev, I did not have any experience as such. So even if someone recommended to me in college that learn web dev, so I would just go till HTML, CSS, JavaScript, nothing beyond that, right? But you don't know if you need to pick Angular, you need to pick anything else. But here it gives you a structured approach. That is all what is required. That is why we are able to do it in 6 months, right? Because it is all structured, all the hassles they have already taken it by themselves, and they have provided us with a clear path. So just we need to follow that path, and that is all that is needed.
Okay.
So in my perspective, just the way the course is structured, and one of the things that like Nupul used to say is that before you learn something, before you learn a new technology, so understand why that technology was invented in the first place, why there was a need for that. So if you understand the problem, then only you will see that how this solution fits into the overall puzzle. So like if I didn't have the guidance that Masai provided, like there was a lot of topics, and I would probably have no way in order how to approach these topics. So in Masai, what happened through the structured course curriculum, what happened was that these topics were given to us in a manner that made sense, and like it made sense in the way that okay, now this is that problem. This topic, if we learned it at this moment, this is going to solve that problem. But then a new problem arises, then the next topic should be introduced. So this particular structured way in which the topics were introduced. In addition to this, there's also that personal mentorship thing. I don't think there's any like substitute for that. And without Masai, I wouldn't have that. So
All right. And promise last question from my side. What has your experience been? You've been very new on the job. I think you guys started just about 2 weeks back. So how has your experience been on the job?
So basically, like when I left Masai, I was kind of depressed because like after spending 6 months, after especially during the placement time, I felt like very close to Masai because in a way that I was going through some seriously like emotionally charged times, and in those times to have a comforting voice, a wise voice to like in your ear to tell you that okay, just take it slow and keep steady, and just to have that voice. So like I was kind of like attached to Masai at that point. I kind of thought, okay, this is the Masai fam, you know. So to and like to have that journey end at that point, I felt that okay, my next startup may not be as like familiar, may not be as feel as family to me like Masai felt. But like after joining Urban Pipe and after like interacting with lots of people from different departments, etc., like I couldn't be more wrong. So like people are really, really welcoming, and this is what I love about the startup world. And people like actually like are passionate. They want you to understand that they're passionate, and they want you to be passionate as well. So that really rubs off me, and I think the whole culture part of the startup culture, like it's really like vibrant, and you have to like witness it to understand it. Really.
Right.
Okay.
So the same thing that Ray pointed out, Charulal and me were discussing when we were told that placement would start in 2 weeks. We were like, यार एक महीना और बढ़ जाए course किसी भी तरह. So we were like this. So yeah, but the same thing that Ray told, right? It feels like a family in Masai, and the same thing like resonates in Urban Piper also. The guys are very welcoming, very helpful. They want you to take ownership of your work and not be called about, and they want that you take your own time, deep dive into the products, and think about how why they are building it. The same thing that we followed in Masai also. So it is a wonderful experience in Urban Piper so far, and they are a great team. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
So
Fantastic. I'm very happy.
I would just like to
Yes, yes.
add something to that. So what I noticed, what was common both in Masai and in Urban Piper is that they want you to take joy in what you're doing. If you're not having fun with what you're doing, there's no point and you should probably find something else. So in Masai, like they wanted us to like have joy in what you're learning. Take ownership of your own learning. And I find the same thing in Urban Piper as well. They want us to have fun at work, and like that should reflect in everyday setting basically.
Fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. I have a lot of respect for Nirban, founder and CTO at Urban Piper, and I'm very happy to hear. Also, I'm sure if Nupul and Yogesh are hearing extended curriculum and everything, they will have more sleepless nights. So we are very happy that you've had a wonderful time at Masai, but you have also moved on to the next phase of your journey. So we have a few questions which have come up in the comments. I'm just gonna put them on the screen for the benefit of the viewers and read them out here. So Swapnil here is asking, and okay, Swapnil has mentioned he's from one of our latest batches, Phoenix. I think that is cohort 7, 8, something like that. I'm sorry, Swapnil. But he's asking, how will you give something back to this community?
uh,
Saklani, I think I will put that on you first because you've already started that part. If you are able to hear me, I think there is probably some lag. Ray, are you able to hear me?
yeah,
Okay. Would you want to take this question up? How will you give something back to this community?
sure. So basically, I had a I would like to build a product Slack app, basically like that kind of like aids in learning somehow. And I'm not really sure about what I want to build, but I want to build something around that because like the Masai, I don't know, the Masai ecosystem is in a way that like a Slack app that could like bridge the platform between the website itself that is like has all the course curriculum, etc., and the community which is present in the Slack app. And I'm not really sure about the specifics, but something around that.
All right. I think I'll have to put you in touch with Prateek on this one. He'll be very happy to know somebody is trying to solve our community problem. Saklani, your thoughts?
So the thing that I faced during my college, like a normal student would face, right? These things I don't want anyone else to go through. Don't lose out on the time, because if there is something structured that you can follow up, so that would be my thing. As in, whatever I have learned, if I can give something, some value to it, clear out the doubts and all, so I would be more than happy to do that.
And for perspective, Swapnil and others, Saklani is already involved as a teaching assistant with one of our ongoing batches, and Ray has shown a strong interest in doing a teaching assistant role or another role like that in the coming times. So we are very happy to see these things. All right, another question from a viewer, Rajeshwari, is asking, can you tell about your perception and personality before Masai and after Masai? Very interesting question.
Sure. So, like the biggest change, mind shift that I underwent was that before Masai, I did not really think of myself as an analytical guy. Like I read a lot of books, and I would always be in that mind that okay, I'm not really an analytical guy. I'm more of a creative person. Is DS and algo really my cup of tea? Am I really going to enjoy solving those kind of problems? And I had these thoughts primarily because I was not confident about my abilities in those subjects, like maths, DS and algo. These are similar in domains, right? So after joining Masai, the biggest change was that simply the way in which the topics were taught, and I have to give credit here to Aman especially for making DS and Algo fun for me because without him, I'm pretty sure I would never have like enjoyed solving DS and Algo. Like the way he introduced those topics, like I remember like having the most fun when dynamic programming was going on. Like I remember like having actually like just in spare time I would go up to like I would just start learning about those problems. I would just start recollecting this approach, that approach. So I had a lot of fun during this stage, and after like having gone through this stage, I realized that my previous perception of myself as not being good enough to do analytical kind of stuff was completely wrong, and I just needed to like have patience with myself and have the correct structure and guidance in this.
Okay. What about any comments on the personality side, Ray? I know you mentioned about perception.
Personality side, I would say like I'm a lot more open. Like before Masai, I would say I wasn't as open. Like I would still be collaborative in general, but like once after, especially like doing a lot of collaborative projects with people, I learned to like how to communicate in a way that addresses all the assumptions, etc. And it helps a lot, especially when you were starting to work in a team and the communication needs to be very crystal clear. So yeah, the communication aspect of my personality definitely got improved after Masai.
Okay. What about you, Saklani?
So, like I would like to point out a specific instance of this. We had built a end-to-end clone. So what happened in that was we had to clone a website, right? And it was about in 8 to 10 days, I guess. So if that would have been earlier, as in before Masai, I would never have even thought about it, right? And building it in 10 days would like it isn't possible. If you give me a month also, I would not be able to clone it. But the thing that happened over here is like Nrupul was very strict on us as he was giving us unachievable targets, and then we have to like hang on to the targets, get them finished by the day, give our presentation and all, and collaborate in a remote setup with different people, understand their strengths, their weaknesses, and work in a remote setup. And like we used to feel that why is giving us so unexpected deadlines, right, that we are not able to fulfill. But at the end of it, like at the end of 10 days when we are able to complete the whole setup, he was the guy that backed us all, as in even he told us that why we are able to do this, right? It is all just a mental game because we have prepared hard for 5 to 6 months. We know the things, but it is all about the mental game that you can do it or not. So that pushing is what made me change and realized me that I can do these things also over here. Before that, I couldn't have even imagined, I guess.
Okay. So another person is asking about interview experience. I think you guys have already mentioned that. Okay, more about interviews, but a specific question here. So Sai Krishna is asking, what kind of questions or rounds have you been through while placements? So without naming companies and their process, you can touch upon what kind of interview rounds.
Sure. So what I found in my experience was that in the front end interviews especially, what happened was that they had a certain set of questions they wanted to ask me, and the questions were more to the point, and all of these questions were 99% of them were like covered in the pre-placement material that was given to us. And this was how most front-end interviews went. In addition to the point questions, there were also questions about the project, which are also pretty direct. But in the back-end interviews, what I found was that the questions are a bit more open-ended, and even in the projects, the implementation that we had done, they didn't really want to discuss that. What they wanted to do instead was that have a discussion around it, and specifically in ways that how to scale your approach. If a new requirement comes in, how does your code adapt to the new requirement? So the backend interviews were a bit more open-ended. In addition to like the projects, there were the questions that they asked were also like went in a form of a discussion where you had more say in where the discussion went. So basically, in a way that they could simply ask a question by saying, do you know what are the like programming paradigms are out there? So if I said functional programming and object oriented programming, so that's how the discussion would go from that point. And 5 minutes down the line, I'm actually writing code to demonstrate that which use case suits which paradigm more. So the backend interviews are a bit more open-ended than the front-end ones.
Okay, some
Right.
interesting parts. Anything you want to add, Saklani?
No, they covered it all. And this thing that he pointed out, right, about the backend interviews, that they are open-ended and they want to know as how you approached it, what difficulties that you faced while doing that assignment or doing that project. and they want to learn that because they know that you have already coded for 6 months, so you can code that out. But they want to know that if given an unexpected situation, how would you adapt to it? How would you react to it? So they want to know those things, and it also depends on the process as how you take the interview from there, right? If you say some words that you don't know in depth and the interview revolves around it, it's a bad luck for you.
Right, so you should be smart there. All right, somebody is asking a question which is more for admissions team, but you guys can make your POV. Lohit says, I want to join Masai school. What should I do? You can
Go,
quickly make a comment if you like.
go on the website, man, and sign up for the test, and yeah, join the
All
family.
right.
Pretty much what Saklani said.
All right. We have a question from another student. This is a batch graduating in another 8-9 weeks. So Ashish here is asking about your working life, like timing, workload, etc.
So as of now, since the actual work hasn't really started for us, the timings are pretty like leisurely. So basically, like it's a 9 hour shift, and the workload is very little as of now. But once like work starts, it's going to change drastically. We have been told so. So
Okay.
But
So
we
I am
have like
sure.
got used to it, as in the same thing we used to do about 10 to 12 hours. So yeah, but there are some small things like the HR mentioned about clock in clock out that should be taken care of, and that is what we means. Other guys also joined us in Urban Typer, right? It was about 5 to 6 guys joining, so they had to specifically point out on those small things. How would you work out in a remote environment? But we already had a head start to it because we were already doing it for the past 5 to 6 months. So yeah, that was already taken care by the curriculum that is well set and planned by the Masai. So yeah, the thing that Ray pointed out that the timings would be quite high after we like because this is our honeymoon period as they say, and also we had this honeymoon period in Masai, and we realized how tough it gets in Masai after 1 month.
All right. Yeah, and I mean, for perspective to anybody, choosing to go into a growth stage, startup is always going to be challenging over a period of time. And I think a lot of people seek out that challenge because the learnings and the experience is quite invaluable. I personally have a love for being in growth stage startups as well. So, all right, there is a question again more for the admissions team, but you guys can share your perspective. Can a person without a graduation also do a program?
so my opinion is that if you know you can work hard, and if you know that you can pass the basic aptitude test and you can put in the hours, you can definitely do the program.
Right, and get in touch with Tanvir. He's a Masai alumni, and like if you get in touch with him, like you will get to know as you don't require any programming experience as such. You just need to follow the process.
All right, and there's a follow up from the same person. Deepak is asking if yes, what are the chances of getting placed for them?
You can look up at Tanvir's profile. Na? You will get to know all about him, how well he is placed.
Okay, anything to add, Ray?
So it depends on how you perform in the curriculum itself. So there's 6 months gap, So like if a person, even if like doesn't have a graduation, if doesn't have a graduate degree, even if that person works hard for those particular 6 months, they stand a very good chance at cracking your interviews. A very good chance, I would say.
So, and from an official perspective, if I have to answer that, Saklani has already referred to Tanveer. He comes from a unique, exceptional background. But it's not just Tanveer. We have people who are college dropouts and then have gone on to, join leading companies in the country. We have almost about 60% of our graduates actually come from a non-computer science background. I think about 40-45% are not engineers at all of any kind. So we have guys coming in from BCom, BCA, BSc, BMaths, CA, Inter kind of backgrounds. People who've taken career breaks to try for UPSC, and somewhere along the time they change their thought. People who completed their degree in 6 years, and so on and so forth. So we actually encourage a lot of these people, because like both Ray and Saklani have pointed out, our idea is to develop the skill. And at least in terms of our conversations, when you go for an interview with Masai, one thing we can ensure is that you get assessed for your skill set, and not your education or degree or resume as such. That's something we encourage all our hiring partners to look at, and that's why we have such phenomenal success stories across. Okay, so one more question here. Anant is asking, did you and your other friends at Masai get placed at an L3, L4 level? I don't know if for clear, comprehend the question. Anant, you can elaborate on that. Ray, I don't know if you guys understand the question. You can
So
comment on
basically, like all of us join at L1 level only, since this is a like we're join as freshers, so we join at L1 level only. L3 and L4 is like senior.
it. Okay. So codes and all, I don't have much thought in my head. Again, Anant, what we can tell you is we these programs are meant to train our students for entry level developer roles. In terms of what we are looking at in future, we might look at other options, but our idea is to currently focus on this one piece. And for perspective, again, Ray and Saklani have both gone through our full stack web developer program, and now working as SD1s at Urban Piper. And those are the kind of opportunities we look at for people. So we have another 2 minutes. If anybody wants to put in more questions, please do that. In the meantime, one open-ended question from my side, and again for the benefit of the viewers. Uh, what is that one piece of advice that you would leave for any aspiring developer, irrespective of what stage background they're in?
So my one line would be just have fun with what you're creating and try to create stuff. Not just learn, but actually use those learnings to create stuff. And once you start creating stuff that are useful to you or anyone in a regular life, that you'll start to have fun in that. You'll start to see a purpose in like being a developer. You'll find that meaningful.
Okay.
Right.
Uh, have
And
fun in what you're doing. And what about you, Saklani?
right, and get to know as what you are coding and for which thing you are coding for, right? You should know as what line of code you write represents what. So you should have a in-depth knowledge of it, as in how things are working out. So if you have that and you love to code, there is no better place, I guess.
All right. Okay, one final question from the audience before we wrap up. What was the most toughest question asked during both of your interviews?
So for me, like it would be like I was asked to design a Tetris, and I was asked to draw out the schema and how I would design the classes and overall structure the code. So that would be, I guess, the most difficult because like it was very open-ended. I was not given any clues, and I had to ask a lot of questions and then incorporate a lot of feedback and have to think on the spot in what direction I wanted to go.
Okay, cool. So I think we are almost at an hour. First things first, thank you so much, both Ray and Saklani, for taking out the time on a Saturday evening. Thanks to all of our viewers who have joined in here. If you still have questions, you can write to us regarding admissions to admissions@masaischool.com. Any other information, you can write to info@masaischool.com. You can visit our website and check out any details there. We have another full stack developer batch starting on the 19th of October, which is next month. Applications are open for another 2 weeks or so, roughly. If you're looking for an entry level developer role, entry level developer training, you are most welcome to check it out and apply, go through the application process. We have an Android full stack program which is coming up in November. So that's a full stack developer program which is focused around Android rather than web. And for final year college students or people early in their career, we have a part time program starting in October as well, which is a software developer track. Which, wherein you learn the fundamentals of Java problem solving and basic, system design, etc. So yes, most welcome to reach out to us, apply for any of the courses, ask any questions, and we'll see everybody very soon. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank